I saw in her face and those dreamy eyes nothing but love. We must have gazed at each other longer than was safe, for the demon came closer and watched us intently. I tore my eyes away from her, while she threw the sword away, saying, "I cannot behead someone I don't know." Here you are then. Your refusal is confirmation that this man is indeed your lover and that you've finally confessed to your terrible crime and deceit. Then he turned to me. You, human being, do you know this woman? I looked at the young woman, seeking to assure her that I would not betray her even if I had to sacrifice myself. How am I supposed to know her when I find myself in this place for the first time? Then it will be easy for you to strike off her head, the cunning demon replied. Yes, go ahead and do that. I will set you free when you have satisfied me that she did not after all deceive me. I took the sword, saying, with pleasure. But the girl misunderstood my answer and looked at me with reproach. Is this how you repay me? She asked. I gazed back at her, terrified that the demon would see me, trying to tell her with my eyes, I am ready to give my life for you. Then I threw the sword on the ground and cried out, Demon! How can you let a man kill a woman who has refused to kill him without a valid reason? How could I live with such a deed on my conscience? And why don't you leave her be? I beg you, take a look at this woman and tell me if I am mistaken that her soul will be leaving her any minute due to the torture you've inflicted on her. Why don't you leave her be? But my words only made the demon angrier. I knew it, he shouted. You two are conniving against me. You insult my intelligence and my powers, and at the same time you ignite my jealousy. He drew his sword and cut off the girl's arm and then hacked at the other one until it flew off like a shooting star and landed on their FL. Or. The young woman then bade me one final farewell before he struck at her head and she drowned in her own blood. I fainted and lost consciousness, and when I came to my senses, I got to my feet, ready for the demon, crying out, Go ahead and kill me. Release me from this agony once and for all. But the demon said, No, I will not kill you, human being, for I am not sure that it was with you that she deceived me. Just let me check your hands. He grabbed my hands, tilted his head and examined them carefully. I was mortified. Perhaps the demon could read the truth in the lines on my palm. But the demon muttered to himself, in a voice which shook the walls, But these hands are rough, chapped, and swollen, as if they are familiar only with ploughing, working in a smithy, building, or chopping wood. When he mentioned woodcutting, I tried to control the trembling of my hands lest they give me away. I am sure that the axe and rope must belong to you, he muttered. At these words I saw myself falling into the raging sea of death. But then he pulled me clear by continuing, But how could a woodcutter be a calligrapher? Where are his long, flexible fingers? He dropped my hands and took from his belt the paper on which I had written that single phrase. Go ahead, take hold of it, he said, shoving it at me. I grasped it and held it upside down. At this his face grew dark with rage and fury. He turned the paper the right way around. Go ahead and read what is written here, and if you can do so, then your life shall be spared. But this is a drawing, not writing, I answered. He sighed, long and loud, revealing his frustration and confusion. I saw my chance and pleaded with him. Let me go. Please be assured, demon, that I have never set eyes on your mistress before today. I'm not sure that it was with you that she deceived me, but at the same time I find myself unable to let you go without inflicting some harm. He threw the piece of paper on the ground and stamped upon it, watching me carefully lest I betray my sadness and regret. I realized that he knew that whoever had written that phrase must have felt great desire and passion for his mistress. So I pretended to be confused and puzzled by his actions, although I felt as though he was stamping upon my heart. Suddenly the demon stopped and said, "Perhaps you are a woodcutter who loves calligraphy? I wonder if I should put out your eye or cut off your hand." I pleaded once more, telling him, "But my work is really washing the dead." But the demon brought the quill pen and a knife and pushed his face close to mine, saying, "I'll put out your eye so you can no longer write. I could choose to end your life while making you watch your own slow death, but with your plucked eye you will frighten away children and be a curse upon adults." "You must believe me, please," I cried out. "Maybe your eye didn't guide your hand as it crafted that calligraphy, but it did see my mistress," was his reply. He came towards me with the quill pen and I screamed out in terror, but he poked out my eye. The blood of my heart and my brain poured out and drained from my eye along with my tears, and I screamed again and again, as if my screams might lift me in the air and throw me back into the forest. I screamed and stretched my arms wide. Oh my life! For what reason was I separated from my father, mother and my homeland? Attacked by bandits who killed my companions and my camels and looted everything, and then made a woodcutter who became their cause of the death of the only woman I have ever loved. And as if all of this was not enough, a demon has taken out my eye. I walked and walked aimlessly until I discovered that I had lost not only my eye, but my ears and my tongue. All my senses had died. I shaved my hair and my eyebrows and wore a black woolen cloak and set out to roam the world, seeking to forget that I had caused the death of a young woman who was the light of the sun and the moonlight. She had died in great suffering because of my greed and selfishness, and because I carried not even a tiny speck of compassion or wisdom in my heart, not even when the girl had pleaded with me not to touch the talisman. She had warned me that if I touched it I would destroy us both, and I hadn't even seen the damage I would do when she uttered those words to me. "Unless you seek separation, I beg you hold back. Stay, jealousy destroys the very thing it loves. And such betrayal is condemned by heaven above." I heard more than once on my travels that Harun al-Rashid, their commander of the faithful, was always ready with great compassion to listen to those who had suffered misfortune. So I decided to visit Baghdad and find a way to be in his presence and tell him my life story. And so I reached Baghdad only today, where I met a dervish with one eye who told me that he too was a visitor to the city, and after we had talked for a while we met a third dervish, also with one eye. Then the three of us walked together, seeking a place to spend the night, and the fate of God brought us to your beautiful house. The mistress of the house said to him, "Stroke your head and go." But the dervish said, "Would my gracious lady permit me to remain and hear the tales of the others?" "Yes, you may," said the mistress of the house. The third dervish hurried to the middle of the room, bowed to the mistress of the house, paused to reflect for a moment before sighing, wiping tears from his eyes, and beginning in a trembling voice,